The WNBA playoffs are in full swing, and Tommy Elter's The Young Man in the Three brings you closer to the game. Get complete WNBA playoff coverage as Tommy sits down with the game's biggest stars and delivers unmatched analysis. The Young Man in the Three's WNBA playoff coverage is presented by Quest Nutrition. From irresistibly crunchy protein chips to rich chocolatey protein bars, these treats make giving in feel so good. Quest, big on protein, low on sugar, huge on flavor. Shop Quest on Amazon at amazon.com/Quest Nutrition and enjoy all the WNBA action on The Young Man in the Three wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 453 of the True Crime All the Time podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing very well.
Good.
Having a good week.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and give our Patreon shout-outs. We had Caitlin Godby.
Hey, Godby.
Anya Hoffman.
What's up, Hoffman?
Johnny Brown.
Hey, Brown.
Robert Phillips.
What's up, Phillips?
Daryl.
Good old Daryl.
Fabiola Galindo.
Ooh, Fabiola.
Which I'm having a lot of fun with.
Yeah, you are.
Maria Sijao. I'm really not sure on this one.
It's just Maria.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shane Virgins.
Hey, Shane.
And last but not least, Nora Galan.
I think that's Nora.
Oh, okay.
Because it's got the two O's in it.
Yeah.
You got to stretch it.
That makes perfect sense. And then if we go back into the vault, this week we selected Michelle Starling.
Hey, Starling.
Yeah. And speaking of Patreon, Saturday night we dropped a brand new Patreon episode. It's on 20-year-old Jody Loomis, who was murdered in 1972. And then decades later, many decades later, almost 50 years later, genetic genealogy was used to identify the killer. And we're trying something new here. And we will be on TCAT as well with some of these lesser known cases, not giving away the killer right up front. And maybe providing a little bit more mystery to the episodes. It's something that some people have asked for, and we're going to try it out.
Okay.
We also have a brand new episode out on True Crime All the Time Unsolved, where we're talking about 15-year-old Kayla Burke, who went missing in August 2009 after being dropped off at a condemned property by an older family friend.
Hey, you didn't mention that I was wearing a more sizable shirt this time on the Patreon.
Yeah, one of the 3 shirts that you bought that came in after CrimeCon. Last week's was toddler sized. This week was a normal size that said Team Mike. Last week it said Fergie, Fergie, Fergie.
Yeah.
Some people thought that you bought the singer Fergie merchandise and just happened to get it too small, which could be. I don't
know. I typed in Fergie shirt, you know.
All right, buddy. Are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time?
I'm ready.
We are on to our part 3 and last part on Rodney Alcala. In part 2, we covered the known crimes he committed in 1979 and how he was finally apprehended. In part 3, we'll cover his second murder trial and the long path to securing justice for the victims, as well as additional cases linked to Alcala in recent years. Rodney Alcala's second trial for the murder of Robin Samso began on April 23, 1986. The trial was almost identical to the first, except for the omission of Alcala's prior criminal record in the guilt phase. The jury heard from Bridget Wolvert, Jackie Young, and Dana Crappa. At the retrial, Dana testified that she couldn't remember anything from June 20th, 1979. The judge allowed the jury to hear a transcript of her earlier testimony. But Alcala's attorneys argued that she had been hypnotized by a police interviewer who made suggestions about details of the case. However, in a hearing outside the jury's presence, the judge found that there was no evidence to conclude she had been hypnotized. During the first trial, several inmates testified about Alcala's alleged incriminating remarks, but at the retrial, the prosecution used testimony from Fred Williams, who told jurors that Alcala once returned from court, laughing after watching the police demonstrate how Robin's bicycle could have been carried inside his car. Alcala allegedly told Williams, "Those guys look like a bunch of morons. I threw that bicycle in with no trouble at all." So I can understand, the prosecution maybe wanting to go away from inmate testimony, right? It can be troublesome in a lot of cases.
True.
But if Rodney really said this to this guy, Fred Williams, okay, it's pretty incriminating. Williams also testified that he and Alcala were once looking at a picture of a woman in a sexually suggestive pose. Rodney said she's nothing like Robin was. Robin kicked and clawed like a wildcat.
More damaging statements.
It is, but again, is this from another inmate? Just a different inmate? Maybe they weren't sold on the credibility of the other guys that they had used in the first trial. Or maybe they thought this guy's testimony was more compelling. The things that he said would be more compelling to the jury. Alcala was convicted of murder a second time. On May 28, 1986, Tally Shapiro and Monique Hoyt recounted being attacked by Alcala during the penalty phase. On June 19th, Rodney spoke at the end of the penalty phase and asked the jury to spare his life. He said, as quoted by the LA Times, "Please don't kill me. I don't think I should die for something I didn't do. Please don't kill me. But I killed, all these girls and women."
I say, how many of those victims of his said, "Please don't kill me"?
Yeah. And he didn't listen. Why should the jury listen? Alcala admitted to his history of molesting young girls, but denied ever meeting Robin Samsoe. His attorney asked him to speak to the jury about what an appropriate sentence would be. He said that his record in prison proved, "I am absolutely harmless. I'm not a threat to anyone." That might be the biggest crock of shit I've ever heard.
I was going to say, who's going to buy that?
First of all, if I'm a juror, the last person that I want to hear from about what an appropriate sentence would be is Rodney Alcala, who's already been convicted. I don't care what you have to say. And, your statement that you're not a threat to anyone it's just BS. Alcala's attorney argued that there were too many unanswered questions about where he was the day Robin disappeared, and told the jurors that if they were left with any doubt, they shouldn't sentence him to death. The prosecutor argued that Alcala preyed on defenseless young girls, and the death penalty should be reserved for a special category of crime, which Alcala fit into. And going back to that quote, "I'm not a threat to anyone." Hey, you might not be a threat to anyone in prison because you preyed on young girls.
Right.
You might get your ass handed to you.
Yeah, you should
literally.
You should feel threatened
in prison, but you still did what you did, right? To these young girls, and you were the predator. You were a huge threat to them, the ultimate threat. Deputy DA Thomas Gothal said, "The defendant is the epitome of malevolence. He's a sexual carnivore, and the meat he thrives on is our children."
Yikes, man. But that's to the point.
He's not wrong, but that's a very scary statement. Once again, the jury sentenced Alcala to death on June 20th, 1986. On August 20th, the judge upheld the death sentence. The judge told Alcala that Robin Samsoe's murder was heinous enough and his criminal past made the death sentence even more justified. And it's hard to argue with that. I get it. If you don't believe in the death penalty, you could say, well, nobody deserves it. But I think if you're looking at it from the standpoint of it exists, and because of that, who does deserve it, you have to put Rodney in that category. During his time in prison, Alcala sued the California prison system for a slip and fall claim and for failing to provide him a low-fat diet. He also complained about a law that required he and other death row inmates submit DNA mouse swabs for comparisons in unsolved cases. Have you ever heard of an inmate suing the prison for a slip and fall?
No.
But what do you think this is, Walmart?
Yeah. But I'm sure somebody has made some money off of it at one point.
Somehow, I'm sure. And for failing to provide him a low-fat diet. You're on death row.
Yeah.
Or you're in prison. You eat whatever they give you.
That's the way it should be, but I don't know if that's that way anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. But it shouldn't be a country club. It's punishment. And I can completely understand why he doesn't want to submit to DNA mouse swabs, right? Because let's face it, we've talked about it. It's believed that he was involved in many, many more crimes than which, he was convicted for. So he doesn't want to be linked to those.
Of course not.
Alcala wrote a book titled You, the Jury, where he claimed his innocence and pointed to an alternative suspect. In 1992, the California Supreme Court upheld the verdict, but Alcala filed a federal habeas corpus petition. So, he's not going quietly.
No.
Right? And a lot of inmates don't. As big and bad as they think they are, or they claim to be, most people don't want to be put to death.
But he has plenty of time to do all this appeal work, so...
Yeah, what else he got to do?
Yeah.
But be a pain in the butt to everybody. Sue people, file petitions. On April 2nd, 2001, the U.S. District Court overturned Alcala's conviction, ruling that the Superior Court judge precluded the defense from presenting evidence material to significant issues in the case. The court ruled that the jury should not have been allowed to consider the testimony of the Forest Service firefighter who found Robin's remains. This decision was upheld in 2003 by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals panel, in part because a witness was not allowed to support Alcala's contention that the park ranger who found Robin's body had been hypnotized by police investigators. But they were really big on all these witnesses being hypnotized by law enforcement.
They are. So he's got to be happy with this.
Well, we just said he's a real pain in the butt at this point, but he's also been pretty successful, he and his defense team, in getting his convictions overturned. In 2003, Orange County Senior Deputy DA Matt Murphy was working on a new strategy for re-prosecuting Alcala. He received a call from his boss, who just heard from the Los Angeles DA's office. DNA swabs from Alcala matched the DNA in semen left at the murders of 2 Los Angeles women. The victims were Georgia Wickstead and Charlotte Lamb. So it was after this that prosecutors in Orange and Los Angeles counties began to work together. Investigator Stephen Mack with the Huntington Beach PD took a lead role in the case. He told A&E that his predecessors always suspected Alcala was a serial killer, but they didn't have DNA testing at the time. When he was looking through items previous investigators discovered, in Alcala's storage locker, Mack found 2 rose earrings and a red satin pouch. He suspected they belonged to one of the other victims. The DNA matched Charlotte Lamb. And we talked about this, right, in a previous episode. The keeping of trophies. Pre-DNA, okay, maybe it doesn't hurt someone like Rodney as badly. But after DNA comes about, those things just to have in your possession become so very dangerous.
As this one did, right? It's going to help the prosecution.
Oh, absolutely. On June 5th, 2003, the LA DA's office filed murder charges against Rodney Alcala, alleging that he killed Georgia Wickstead during a burglary and rape. In October 2003, the Orange County DA's office refiled murder charges in the Robin Samsoe case. In 2004, investigators matched Rodney's DNA to semen left on the body of 18-year-old Jill Barcombe, who was murdered in 1977. On September 19, 2005, Rodney Alcala was indicted for the murders of 4 Los Angeles County women.
I mean, he's just being hit. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, and part of that is advancements in DNA. Part of that, I'm sure, is him being successful multiple times in getting his conviction overturned. Hey, you want to mess with us? We're going to try to figure out everything you've ever done.
Yeah.
And, new DNA technology is going to help us do that. Prosecutors entered a motion to combine the Robin Samsoe charges with the 4 other cases. In 2006, an Orange County court ruled that all 5 cases could be combined and tried in Orange County. On June 12, 2008, the California Supreme Court affirmed that Alcala would face a single trial for all counts, setting aside a decision by an appeals court that ordered 2 trials. So this is really playing out in multiple levels of the court system, right? The California Supreme Court is getting involved in a lot of things related to Rodney.
So, but we can see a strategy, right? I mean, they're throwing all these cases together.
Something's going to stick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the more cases, the more DNA, the better chance that you're going to get, one or multiple convictions that won't be overturned. In the fall of 2009, Alcala pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity to the murders of Georgia Wickstead, Charlotte Lamb, Jill Parento, and Jill Barcombe. He then changed his plea to not guilty.
He's all over the place.
Yeah, so first, not guilty by reason of insanity, and then second, just plain old not guilty. The retrial started on January 11, 2010. Prosecutors outlined how Rodney Alcala tortured the victims. One victim was raped with a claw-toothed hammer. Another had her skull beaten with a rock. One was strangled hard enough to break bones.
He was just a brutal guy.
He was. We've said that multiple times, but it really drives home how vicious and violent this guy really was. All were repeatedly strangled and resuscitated to prolong their agony.
I mean, this is how he got off, right?
Yes. I think that's a really good inference to make. I mean, why in the world would you strangle someone to the point of death and then resuscitate them only to do it again? I mean, it's sadistic. And you can only surmise that he was doing it because that's what, got him off or floated his boat or whatever term you want to use.
Yeah.
2 of the 4 women were posed nude after their deaths. The jury also heard about the DNA evidence linking Alcala to the Los Angeles victims, although there was no forensic evidence linking Alcala to Robin Samsoe's murder. Prosecuting the cases together allowed the jury to see commonalities. And, this is something that we've talked about, not being allowed to introduce prior acts into a trial or other cases into a trial. Well, trying them all together kind of takes that out of the equation. Now, you might not still be able to do prior acts, but the jury's hearing about all of these cases at the same time.
Yeah. I think it's perfect, actually.
If your dog could talk, they'd warn you about what's lurking in their bowl. Mass-produced kibble isn't just unappetizing. It could be a crime against canine health. Mysterious byproducts, unpronounceable preservatives, and who knows what fillers. Sounds more like evidence from a crime scene than dinner. Ollie is here to crack the case on pet nutrition with fresh human-grade meals made with the highest quality ingredients. No mystery meats, no artificial junk, just real minimally processed food made in U.S. kitchens. It's the kind of clean eating that keeps tails wagging and nose sniffing for more. With 5 fresh protein-first recipes like beef with sweet potatoes and turkey with blueberries, your pup won't have to wonder what's in their food ever again. Because when it comes to their health, the only mystery should be where you hide the treats. Dogs deserve the best. And that means fresh, healthy food. Head to ollie.com/Wondery. Tell them all about your dog and use code WONDERY to get 60% off your welcome kit when you subscribe today. Plus, they offer a happiness guarantee on the first box. So if you're not completely satisfied, you'll get your money back. That's OLLIE.com/Wondery and enter code WONDERY to get 60% off your first box. Take 2.
Claude is the go-to AI assistant for millions of people and businesses around the world. Whether you're brainstorming alone, drafting a business plan for your next big idea, preparing for a crucial negotiation, or building with a team of thousands, Claude is here to help. By using Claude as your personal or business AI assistant, you'll be in great company. Organizations like Salesforce, Figma, and Coinbase all use Claude in their products. Try Claude for free at claude.com. That's CLAUDE.com.
At his 2010 trial, Alcala acted as his own attorney. He gave his opening statement on February 2nd, 3 weeks into the trial. And we know that always works out well. Now, this was a fairly intelligent guy.
He was.
But that does not mean he was an attorney. Being smart will get you so far. Bundy was a little different because he did have the law background. But just being a smart person, doesn't mean that you can defend yourself. It doesn't mean you can perform open heart surgery.
No.
Because you stayed at a Holiday Inn last night. It doesn't work that way.
No, you got to know a little bit more than just being smart.
Alcala argued that there was only a 6-minute and 15-second window of opportunity when Robin could have been kidnapped, and he would prove he was at Knott's Berry Farm at that time. But he didn't make a significant attempt to dispute the other murder charges, only saying he couldn't remember killing any of the Los Angeles County women. I don't know how that goes over to the jury. I'm going to dispute and provide evidence that I couldn't have killed Robin. I don't know about these other ones. I just don't remember killing them at all. He got on the stand for 5 hours. And, Gibbs, he was asking himself questions and addressing himself as Mr. Alcala.
So, Mr. Alcala, yes? Just so weird, right?
Right. Do you have to ask the questions down by the table and then run into the box real quick, answer, and then run back out?
Run back.
He told the jury that on June 20th, 1979, the day Robin disappeared, he went to Seal Beach to visit a friend. His friend wasn't there, so he went to a picture frame store and then went to Sunset Beach, where he took photos of a young woman roller skating. This woman was identified by investigators as Lori Wirtz. After that, he went to Knott's Berry Farm. He explained that he could use the angle of the shadows in the photos to estimate the time. The prosecutor objected until Alcala told the judge that his calculations proved he was at the beach around 2:22 p.m. This time was consistent with the prosecutor's theory of when Alcala approached Robin and her friend after taking a picture of the roller skater. Alcala also argued that the gold earrings found in his storage locker were his, not Robin's. During his testimony, he showed the jury a clip of his appearance on The Dating Game, where he claimed the jury would see him wearing the earrings. He conceded that the video did little to help his case. The resolution was low, and it made it look as if he had one long earring on.
Okay.
So why are you showing it?
Yeah, why would you even go down that path?
If it doesn't show what you want it to. Alcala called Robin's mother, Mary Ann Conley, to the stand. He confronted her about how she brought a gun to court during the first trial, which she didn't deny. Mary Ann later told 48 Hours, "I was going to shoot him right between the eyes. if I could have gotten a shot at him, but she felt Robin's presence in the courtroom and she couldn't get her hand out of her purse. So 2 things here, right? First of all, what's it like for the mother of a victim to be confronted on the stand by her daughter's alleged killer? That had to be just an absolute nightmare for her.
I would think so. Like bizarre, nightmarish. It's going to be like a mix of emotions.
Well, and she hates this guy, right? She even said and admitted that she brought a gun to the first trial and she had thoughts and intentions of shooting this guy. So then my second question is, all right, what was the security like back then? Obviously, it couldn't have been too good. People are just able to, smuggle in a gun in their purse.
But I understand. I mean, I think I would want to do the same thing, right? I mean, you killed my child.
I mean, who wouldn't want to pull a Samuel L. Jackson?
Exactly.
I hate those guys, and I hope they burn in hell.
It's pretty good.
I don't know if that's the exact quote, but, obviously he killed the 2 people that raped his daughter.
Yeah.
Because he felt they weren't going to get justice or whatever. I mean, as a parent, I don't know how that thought couldn't go through your mind. Now, most people are able to put it aside and say, well, that's not going to help the situation. First of all, I'm just going to end up in prison with this guy. If he doesn't die,
yeah,
my family's going to be wrecked even further. But, that thought and that inclination has to be there for many people. Most just don't act on it. Psychiatrist Richard Rappaport was the only defense witness paid for by Alcala. He testified that borderline personality disorder could explain Rodney's claims that he had no memory of committing the murders. Rodney Alcala was found guilty of all 5 murders on February 25th, 2010. And that doesn't surprise me, right? I mean, they had evidence against him. This guy's acting as his own attorney. He's got 1 defense witness. I just don't know how he thought it was going to go any other way. Now, there's a part of me that believes some of these guys, they know they're going to be convicted. And so they want to control as much of it as they can because they know they're about to lose all control. And maybe that's why they act as their own attorney. I don't know why.
I mean, that definitely could be part of it.
Because obviously you have very little control once you get to prison.
Now, does it also come into play that maybe they're file some type of appeal saying they shouldn't have representing themselves?
Ineffective assistance
Yes.
of counsel. I don't think you can I don't think you can claim that once you represent yourself.
Yeah.
I could be wrong about that. Tally Shapiro also got on the stand during the penalty phase and testified about the details of the day she was attacked. Although she couldn't remember the attack, she testified that it changed her life forever.
It had to.
Oh, absolutely. What she did remember was the fear she felt. When she got into Alcala's car, she said, I remember wanting to jump out of the car, but I respected my elders, so I stayed. During cross-examination, Alcala apologized to Tally, saying, I sincerely regret. I apologize for my despicable behavior. She didn't respond. I mean, how was she going to respond? Who is going to accept an apology from this monster?
Yeah.
After, what he did.
What are you going to say? Oh, well, that's okay. I know you didn't really mean to do what you did. No. You're like, you're a son of a bitch, and I hope you die.
Die in hell. But, does anybody not think he's just saying this for the court?
Well, absolutely. That's what he's doing.
I don't think he regrets it. I don't think he is sincere when he apologizes. Monique Hoyt also testified about Alcala taking her to a mountainous area and asking her to pose for pictures before he knocked her unconscious. He beat, raped, and sodomized her. When she woke up, he was lying on the ground. She thought if she was kind to him, he would let her go. He agreed to drive her back to town, where she was able to escape. And, some of these are, unbelievable stories. And I don't say unbelievable like in a bad way, just the fact that he let her go. Or maybe he didn't let her go, but he did drive her back to town. Maybe she escaped before he was going to do something else. But you would think if he was going to kill her, he would have done it in this mountainous area where no one was around. So what was his thought process there? That she did such a great job of convincing him maybe that she could be trusted if he let her go, that she wouldn't tell on him?
I think he liked the game a little bit too. I think he wanted to see what she would try to do. I think he kind of liked to play into it a little bit. And
maybe that was part of the thrill for him.
Yeah.
We don't know.
But luckily for her, she escaped.
On cross-examination, Alcala asked if she remembered that he apologized in the car. She told him his apology was meaningless. And what apology wouldn't be meaningless when it comes after a beating, a rape, and being sodomized?
What can you... Hey, I'm really sorry for doing that. I had a really bad day, and I took it out on you, and I shouldn't have. No, that's not going to...
It's not going to fly with anyone.
No.
As part of his closing argument, Alcala told the jury, "Let me put the death penalty in perspective for you. If you desire to join in the killing of a human being, you and the families of the victims will have to wait at least 15 to 20 years while the case slowly churns through the appellate process." He played a song called Alice's Restaurant by Arlo Guthrie, in which the singer tells a psychiatrist he wants to kill. One part of the song says, "I want to kill, I want to kill. I want to see blood and gore and guts and veins in my teeth. Eat dead, burnt bodies. I mean, kill, 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 kill." Seems like a strange song to play.
Yeah.
But I'm also not sure what the families are making of this closing argument that says, okay, you can put me to death, but it's not going to happen for 15 to 20 years. And I get that. That was a true thing, right? It does take a very long time to put someone to death. But if I'm a family member and I'm okay with the death penalty, I'm like, I'll wait.
Yeah, exactly.
If it takes 15, I'll wait. I'll be there. If it takes 20, I'll wait. I'll be there.
At least we'll get finality versus you being in prison maybe for 30 years.
On March 9th, 2010, the jury sentenced Alcala to death for the third time. And that's one of the things about this case, Gibbs, is that, it took so long.
Yeah, like you said, 2010.
I mean, you're talking, 30 years, essentially, almost 30 years from when his first trial was and when these murders occurred for them to gain a third conviction. On March 11, 2010, the Huntington Beach police released over 100 photos from Alcala's storage locker. Detectives withheld about 900 photos because they were too sexually explicit. Others were cropped for release.
Over 1,000 photos.
And we've kind of mentioned it in the first two episodes, right? All of these photographs found is part of what makes so many people latch onto this case. Yes, the murders he committed were terrible. The things he did were terrible, but it's really what else did he do because of all these photographs? How many women could he have victimized and or killed?
Yeah.
Huntington Beach Police Captain Chuck Thomas said he didn't know why his predecessors didn't release the photos years ago. On March 30th, 2010, a judge formally sentenced Alcala to death. In April of that year, it was reported that investigators identified at least 21 women from the photos. None of them were missing persons or homicide victims. They still had over 100 women and 2 young men they needed to identify. At least 6 families said they believed they recognized loved ones who went missing and were never found. but none of the photos were definitively linked to a missing person case at that time. Leanne Leadham, a psychology professor and author, was watching CNN and saw a photo of herself on the news. Alcala took her picture when she was 17 years old. He lived down the street from her with his mother and befriended her in June 1979. He gave her a ride to work and invited her to his mother's home to look at photos he'd taken of other teens. He also showed her photos of nude boys. He asked to photograph her at her parents' house. She recalled, "I was a 17-year-old girl, and I said, 'Oh, a professional photographer wants to take my picture. Of course I'll do it.'" Alcala bragged about being a member of Mensa and always wore a medallion around his neck that he said signified his membership.
I hate fakers like that.
I think this does bring into question
why he would act like he belongs to something that he did not belong to.
No, what you really have been up to. Apparently, there is a precedent about people bragging about being a member of Mensa and doing horrific things. I'm not saying you've done horrific things. That's up for everybody else to interpret.
I do need to find out about this medallion.
Yeah.
I should get a medallion if that's what they're giving away.
Wouldn't you know if you were in Mensa?
Well, I am. Maybe it got lost in the mail.
Oh, I'm sure that's what happened.
That happens sometimes.
I'm assuming he just bought a medallion with a big M on it and said, "Hey, this means I'm in Mensa." A neighbor saw Leanne getting out of Alcala's car and told her parents, who told her not to see him again. The adults in the neighborhood knew he had already been to prison for attacking a young girl.
What a rep right there. That's your rep in that neighborhood already.
Yeah, this guy's been to prison. He has attacked a young girl. Don't be hanging out with him. But I want to go back to this woman. She was obviously a woman at the time. You're just watching the news and happen to see a photo of yourself. And I'm sure this story that went along with it detailed out Rodney Alcala and what he did.
Yeah.
And all these memories are flooding back about, oh, yeah, he took my picture. I knew him. The thought is I could have been a victim.
How lucky am I that I'm sitting here?
Right. You have to be thinking about that.
Do you experience excessive bouts of money stress? Do you avoid your bank balance like it's a text from an ex? Do you feel guilt and second-guessing about your spending? If you answered yes, you may be suffering from financial funk. YNAB, spelled YNAB, is a life-changing app designed to cure financial funk with a simple method that offers total control of your money. The average YNAB user reports saving close to $600 in their first month and $6,000 in their first year. Side effects may include less financial stress, getting better sleep, and eliminating arguments about money. Warning, using YNAB may be habit-forming. Before starting, ask your wallet if adding more joy to every day and every dollar is right for you. Wondery listeners can claim a 1-month free trial with no credit card required at www.ynab.com. Make sure to select podcasts in the sign-up survey so they know we sent you. Life is short. Spend it well with YNAB.
It's all a lighthearted nightmare on our podcast, Morbid. We're your hosts. I'm Alina Urquhart.
And I'm Ash Kelly.
And our show is part true crime, part spooky, and part comedy.
The stories we cover are well-researched.
Of the 880 men who survived the attack, around 400 would eventually find their way to one another and merge into one larger group.
With a touch of humor.
Shout out to her.
Shout out to all my therapists throughout the years. There's been like 8 of them.
A dash of sarcasm and just garnished a bit with a little bit of cursing.
That motherfucker is not real.
And if you're a weirdo like us and love to cozy up to a creepy tale of the paranormal,
or you love to hop in the Wayback Machine and dissect the details of some of history's most notorious crimes,
you should tune in to our podcast, Morbid. Follow Morbid on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to episodes early and ad-free by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts.
In 2010, the Seattle police named Alcala a person of interest in several unsolved murders. 20-year-old Sherry Ann Greenman was last seen in Waterville, Washington on September 14th, 1976, after she was released from the Douglas County Jail. A photograph found in the storage locker was shown to her family, but they confirmed it wasn't her. 13-year-old Antoinette Jean Whitaker was living in a foster home when she walked out with an unidentified man on the night of July 9th, 1977. A week later, her body was found in a vacant lot in Lake City, Seattle. She had been stabbed to death. She was fully dressed and propped up on her hands and knees. There was no evidence she was sexually assaulted. On February 17th, 1978, 17-year-old Joyce Francine Gaunt was found in a picnic area in Seward Park, Seattle. She was nude and her skull had been crushed. She had been strangled and sexually assaulted. Joyce had been living in a group home on Capitol Hill when she was last seen leaving with an unidentified man on February 16th. So I get it, right? The Seattle police have these unsolved murders. I mean, not hard to think that there's a possibility that Rodney Alcala could be responsible.
Sure. Some of the MOs match.
Yeah, what he was known to have done. I mean, one girl's skull was crushed, strangled, sexually assaulted. He had done that. It was proven. Other cold cases were targeted for reinvestigation in California, New York, New Hampshire, and Arizona. On January 27, 2011, Alcala was indicted for the murders of Cornelia Crilly and Ellen Hover in New York. The renewed interest in the New York cases was spurred by Alcala's latest trial in Orange County and by the creation of a new cold case unit in Manhattan. A law enforcement source told the LA Times, when that trial happened, investigators said, let's see what it shows us that we can use in these cases. Patterns emerged from the California cases that informed the reinvestigation in New York. After the police made public the photos of young women in Alcala's storage locker, several came forward and claimed that a photographer named John Berger took their pictures in New York in the 70s.
Well, we knew that was his alias.
Yeah, he used John Berger with multiple different spellings. New York investigators were interested in Alcala as early as 2003. Detectives investigating the Crilly case flew to California to interview him and get a dental impression, which matched the bite mark on Cornelia Crilly's body. There was also a letter found underneath Cornelia's body. The print on the envelope was unmatched for many years until Alcala's prints were entered into the FBI database. So it's kind of interesting, right, that they had this bite mark way back in 2003.
Yeah.
But he wasn't indicted until 2011. And I just wonder if they just thought, okay, that's not enough. We need a little bit more. You know, maybe it was the prints on the letter that kind of those two together sealed it for them.
Pushed it where they could finally move forward with it.
Yeah. In Ellen's case, investigators knew Alcala was using the alias John Berger. He was seen near the Rockefeller Estates, where Ellen's body was found. Witnesses also saw someone who looked like Ellen, walking with a man who carried a camera bag. In March 2011, investigators in Marin County, California, announced they were confident that Alcala was responsible for the October 9th, 1977 murder of 19-year-old Pamela Jean Lamson, who disappeared after making a trip to Fisherman's Wharf to meet a man who offered to photograph her. Pamela's body was found in Marin County near a hiking trail. Charges were never filed due to a lack of fingerprints or usable DNA. And there again, right, this matches kind of Alcala's MO. Somebody wanted to photograph her. And after that, you know, she disappeared and was murdered.
I mean, he checks the boxes on all this.
Yeah, he absolutely does. But, you know, if you've got no fingerprints, you've got no DNA, you've got no direct evidence, it's not enough just to say, well, this looks like Rodney, because it does. That's not going to get a guilty verdict. On December 14, 2012, Alcala pleaded guilty to the two murders in New York. On January 7, 2013, He was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison for the New York murders. Alcala declined to address the court. And I'm thinking at that point, he's like, all right, I'm on death row. I'm just going to plead guilty. I'm not going to talk. I'm just going to be done with it.
Yeah, maybe he's frustrated at this point. Maybe he's...
You think he's frustrated about being on death row?
Yeah.
Probably. Maybe he's done with the circus.
Yeah. At this point, it's not serving his needs, I don't think.
No, because he's not going to get out from under the death row thing. So why put up this big fight on these two murders that he's probably not going to, get out from under either. But this wasn't the last time Rodney Alcala would face murder charges. Another case was linked to him after the release of the photos. Kathy Thornton spent 39 years trying to find her missing sister. 28-year-old Christine Thornton, she had never heard of Rodney Alcala. But in 2013, her son watched a 48 hours story on the killer that led him to their website. CBS had posted the pictures of the unidentified women. So Kathy looked through the images. One picture showed a woman in a yellow shirt on a motorcycle. She looked like Christine. When Kathy analyzed the photo further, she could see that the woman's pinky toe had the same distinctive curve to it.
Wow. I mean, that's some detail.
Yeah, and I think it's almost the chills, the hair standing up on the back of your neck when you kind of realize that the woman in this picture, I believe, is my sister.
Yeah.
So she Googled Rodney Alcala's name and came to believe her sister had traveled with a serial killer. Christine was originally from Texas, but she was traveling west with her boyfriend. In the spring of 1977, she told her family she was heading to Montana to pan for gold. She also told her mother she was pregnant. This was the last time her family heard from her. Kathy feared something terrible had happened. Christine and her boyfriend had a turbulent relationship. He was abusive, and the family thought he was involved in her disappearance. Kathy began trying to track Christine's whereabouts. She called police departments, federal agencies, and hospitals, but no one had any record of Christine. So Kathy submitted her DNA to a national database of missing persons so it could be matched in the future. Meanwhile, Wyoming detective Jeff Sheeman was working on a cold case of an unidentified female found in a desolate area of Granger. In 1982, the remains were skeletal and had been there for 5 or 6 years. The woman's clothing was found next to her bones, which had been scattered by animals. She was believed to be 25 to 35 years old and was approximately 6 months pregnant when she died. Her skull was intact, so the state crime lab brought in an artist to recreate what she looked like. And this is fascinating to me as well, right? We talked about genetic genealogy in our Patreon episode. This recreation of a person's face based on their skull.
Yeah, it's amazing.
If you've ever seen it where they put like little pins in there and then they start to, shape the face, it's kind of scary sometimes how much it looks like the real person once they figure out who it is.
It really is. I've seen some videos of it, but at last couple crime cons, they've had somebody there that does that.
Mm-hmm.
And every day they progress it further and further, and then they have the face, and you're like, wow, that's amazing.
It is amazing work. The crime lab was able to save skin tissues and bone fragments, which were submitted for DNA processing. In 2015, Detective Sheeman learned there was a match between Kathy Thornton and the bones. Authorities learned that Christine broke up with her boyfriend in the summer of 1977, and she met Rodney Alcala afterwards. They traveled to Granger together, where she was killed. Kathy told 48 Hours, when you see that photo, there's no doubt that she was having fun. I think she just had no clue what he was thinking, what he was capable of doing. So I think you're happy up until the point where you're not. And at that point, there was no escape. Where would she go? The spot where the photo was taken and the location where Christine's remains were found were likely within a few yards of each other, leading authorities to suspect Christine was killed shortly after the photo was taken. And I just wonder, Gibbs, how much of that, if it happened that way, was part of the trophy. This picture was taken right before I killed this woman.
Yeah, I think that's how he liked it.
And so every time I pull this picture out and I look at it, I'm kind of replaying what happened right after the picture was taken.
Probably gave him some weird adrenaline rush /
sexual.
Yeah,
we don't know what goes on with these guys, but before he would indict Alcala for the murder, prosecutor Daniel Erasmusby wanted to interview him. He flew to California in September 2016. By this time, Alcala was in poor health and had been moved from San Quentin to a medical unit outside of Fresno. Security staff said he had borderline dementia. Detective Jeff Sheeman was also present during the meeting. He recalled how they pulled out photos of the crime scene. And Alcala said, "I know that area. That's my area."
Wow.
That's a little scary.
It is.
And when he saw Christine's photo, according to Erasmusby, and it almost clicked like that with him. And you could almost tell that he was reliving that day. Alcala placed the photo on his lap and traced over Christine's image for several minutes. They thought he might be willing to talk, but he denied killing Christine and said she was alive when he left her there. On September 20th, 2016, Alcala was charged with the Wyoming murder, but he wouldn't be extradited to Wyoming due to his poor health. The prosecutor said in the press release following the decision not to extradite Alcala, "The fact that this case will not be proven in court does nothing to dissuade me from knowing that Alcala murdered Miss Thornton." Rodney Alcala died of natural causes at 1:43 a.m. on July 24th, 2021, at a hospital in Kings County. He was 77 years old. After his death, 68-year-old Morgan Rowan contacted former LAPD detective Steve Hodel. She reported that she was attacked by Rodney in July 1968 when she was 16 years old and living in Hollywood, which would make her the earliest known victim. Alcala approached her at a teen nightclub on the Sunset Strip. She entered his car believing he was going to take her to IHOP. Instead, he drove her to his apartment a few blocks away, telling her he was having a party. He dragged her into his bedroom, barred the door, then beat and raped her. She was rescued by friends and acquaintances who broke into the room through the window. Alcala fled, and her friends took her away. So, I mean, if you're talking about his first victim, it sounds to me, Gibbs, like she was saved by her friends.
Sure.
Because what would have happened had they not broken in? It's very likely he would have killed her.
Yeah, I mean, she still had to go through what she went through, which was horrific, but he didn't kill her.
And, as we wrap this one up, it's been a 3-parter, had to be, because there's so much information on Rodney Alcala. Authorities believe there are many victims that have yet to be identified. Some of them could be among the photos found in the storage locker. It is thought by some that Rodney Alcala could be involved in up to 130 murders across the country.
That wouldn't surprise me.
No, it wouldn't surprise me either. It would make him one of the most prolific serial killers.
Sure.
But I mean, I'm sure that thought is based on the number of photographs. Many of the people in them, have not been identified. I'm sure he didn't kill everyone he took a picture of.
No. I mean, hell, he had almost 1,000 pictures.
Yeah, about 1,000. But I'm sure he killed a lot more than 8 people.
Sure he did.
I am certain of that.
I am too.
And I have a feeling as time goes on, they'll figure out who some of these people are. Some of them will wind up being alive and well, and maybe have a scary story to tell about Rodney, or some will be found to be missing. And chances are those people were most likely victims of Rodney Alcala.
Yeah.
I think, what we don't know yet is just what is the real number?
I dislike all of these killers, but I really just dislike how he toyed with the victims, to bring them to the edge of death and then bring them back so he could just do it again.
Yeah, he was sadistic in the way that, he killed people, he tortured them before death. He got his jollies off of strangling people. And it's almost like, what you said, when he brought them back, he resuscitated them and then strangled them again. Why? Because he was still getting his kicks out of it.
Yeah. That's how he got his rocks off.
Yeah, I think the other part of this case is, all these photos, these unidentified people, that's sad. Because I think there are, a lot of victims who have family out there who just have no idea what happened to them.
Yeah.
And my bet is a lot of them ended up dead at the hands of Rodney Alcala.
I think you're right.
But that's it for our 3-part series on Rodney Alcala. He's a monster for sure. He goes down as one of the more vicious serial killers. He could go down as one of the more prolific serial killers if the police actually knew his true number of victims.
Right.
I don't know if we'll ever know, but I'm sure we'll find out more throughout the years. But we got a voicemail. You want to check that out?
Let's hear it.
Hi, Mike and Gibby. This is Jeanette from Washington State. And I've been listening to the Rodney Alcala episodes. And you know what? When I was about 13 or 14, back in the early 70s, there was a guy who asked me and my 2 friends if we wanted to have our pictures taken. And we lived in the Seattle area. Now, it seems like that might be a little bit too early to be Rodney Alcala, but I am sure glad that even though we had told him we did, we changed our minds and didn't come back the next day. So I am sure glad we kept our head on a swivel. Have a good night. Bye.
Kind of a scary thought.
Yeah, it's a very scary thought. And, I don't know if it was too early to be Rodney. We just talked about this person coming forward and saying that she was attacked by Rodney Alcala in July 1968. Now, that was out in Hollywood, but a few years later, could he have been in Seattle? Yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely. So it's scary to think you possibly had a brush that close with a really nasty serial killer.
Yeah.
But that's it for another episode of True Crime All the Time. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.